So here we are at the end, my last weekend at St. Pat's. Can't believe it's been 2 years already. And although we don't necessarily like all endings, we do like when things come back full circle. And so I want to go back to the beginning. I just want to touch upon briefly a homily, at least a scene from it, that I gave 2 years ago on my first weekend here at St. Pat's. And basically the message of this first homily was that I'm going to fail you, but Jesus won't. And what I meant by that is that as long as I rely on myself, I am weak, I'm faulty, I'm going to fail you. And as long as my priesthood, though, if it points to Jesus, everything's going to be all right. And so in this first homily, I shared a scene from one of my favorite childhood films, Hook, by Steven Spielberg. And I just want to teach about one of those scenes from it that I did in my first homily, but I want to go in a different direction. In the movie, Peter Pan, played by Robin Williams, is all grown up. He's a successful businessman who doesn't seem to have enough time for his children. And in the very beginning of the movie, we see him miss a huge ball game for his son, Jack. They eventually go to London, and in London, Peter's two children are kidnapped by Captain Hook, and he's called back to Neverland to rescue them. Much has changed in Neverland, or at least much has changed with Peter. Peter has forgotten a lot. He has forgotten even how to fly. The Lost Boys try to bring back the old Peter Pan, but fail. Tinkerbell, however, is able to help Peter relearn how to fly. And the trick she teaches him is that he has to think of a happy thought. But Peter struggles to find a happy thought, just one strong enough to allow him to fly. And so, as Tinkerbell is trying to help him find this happy thought, we get a flashback of Peter as a baby. We see Peter all swaddled up in a tasteful baby carriage underneath this great maple tree with its vibrant red leaves blowing in the wind as the sun is setting. And next to the baby carriage is a bench on which is seated his mother, who is smartly dressed in her Victorian dress and hat. And she's talking to another smartly dressed woman about her son's prospects. How first he'll go to Whitehall and then Oxford, and then he'll prepare for a judgeship in the highest court of the land, all the while making time for marriage and a family just like his father. As all this expectation is laid out, the baby carriage begins to move away from the tree, from the bench, from Peter's mom. And as we see the baby carriage roll away, Tinkerbell chimes in, "Isn't that what all grown-ups want for their children?" To which Peter responds, "I was afraid because I didn't want to grow up. Because everyone who grows up has to die someday. And so I ran away." When I got the call from Monsignor Knox a few weeks ago that I'd be leaving St. Pat's, a similar feeling to Peter's came over me. My initial feeling at this call was that I don't want to leave St. Pat's. I don't want to grow up. In the future just lies more expectation, more responsibility, more hardship, more endings, more goodbyes. But here, I'm swaddled. I'm comfortable. I'm so loved. Why can't I stay here? I don't want to grow up. But in the very next scene of Hook, we see a memory of Peter meeting his wife for the first time. And then we see another scene of the birth of his first son, Jack, in which Peter exclaims, "I know why I came back. I knew why I grew up. I wanted to be a father." And as I prayed with the reality of this next assignment, I began to play in my imagination what my future priesthood would look like. I kind of imagined how I might be a father to a high schooler, perhaps one just utterly lost in the confusion of our day and age, how I could love them in their loneliness and give them something much greater than myself, that I might be able to give them Jesus Christ in my counsel, in my words, in my actions, and most importantly, in the Eucharist at the Masses I would offer. I I realized again how much I love being a priest, being a father. And in picturing my future priesthood here at St. Thomas More and St. Ed's, the fears of the future, the fears of having to grow up, the fears of being a pastor soon enough and a mature father, one who has to constantly die to himself, these fears began to fade away, and the sadness of leaving all of you became more bearable. The beautiful gift and responsibility of fatherhood is what allowed Peter to fly again. It was a truth that God needs me to be a spiritual and loving father to the students of St. Ed's and the families of St. Thomas More that lifts me up and makes this transition so much more bearable. St. Paul says today that everything indeed is for you. Me leaving is for you and for me. Because, as Paul goes on to say, so that grace bestowed in abundance on more and more people may cause the thanksgiving to overflow for the glory of God. That is, because our love is rooted in God and the infinite, I have more love and his grace to bestow upon others, upon the students and teachers and faculty of St. Thomas, of St. Ed's, and of the families of St. Thomas More, and of the peoples of every parish afterwards. And you have more love and his grace to bestow upon my successor, Father Grant, and his successor, and every successor afterwards. Because the love we have in Christ is not some finite resource that could be exhausted. As long as we are constantly renewing ourselves in Christ's love, in his sacraments, especially the Eucharist as we do today, we'll only discover that our love grows deeper and deeper. My first years here at St. Pat's as a priest will always be my happy thought that helps me to soar above the challenges that lie ahead. Thanks for loving me. Know how much I love you all and how much more love we still have to give for the glory of God.